Remember a few months ago, I talked to Randy Edwards here about new expressions of church, and you may have been following the blog that we've been running on the EA21, which Randy's very much a part of. But Randy, you have another role, and that's involved in Christian education in Australia. Now, what's interesting me is that it's a very, very different model to traditional leadership training.
Yes.
Tell us first of all what it is and why you're doing it.
Okay. Basically what we do is we do theological training for leaders for the future, right? And it has probably 3 or 4 different elements to it. First of all, we completely rewrote our curriculum so that it is entirely directed at training people to be missional, that is, to be able to work outside the church, not just in the church. While we provide some skills, obviously, because people are employed within the church, we want them to be able to communicate and contact with the culture and with people who have nothing to do with the church. So that's at the heart of the kind of training we do. Furthermore, we believe that campus-based training is no longer helpful for much of leadership training for a couple of reasons. One is people who come and live on a campus oftentimes are removed from the real world and the environment which they're around. And we believe that good learning takes place when you're actually involved in the world in which you live. Right? Secondly, we actually believe that students should be involved and doing mission and ministry while they're doing their training. Because you learn better when you're doing something than when you're just hearing somebody talk about it. Right? Furthermore, our model is what's called an action reflection model, where we want our students to go out and do things, then come back into the classroom or together in discussion groups and talk about what worked, what didn't work, and in light of what we're learning, how can we do it differently, how we can do it better. Right? So in those aspects, we are significantly different than almost any other theological college, maybe in the world at this point. We haven't yet found any other theological college that has completely rewritten the curriculum. And what I mean by that is, when we study the book of Acts, Acts is probably easy, when we study the Pentateuch, right, we study it from what are the issues missionally that we gain from this document. What is it about the heart of God, the mission of God, that we learn that we can now take and apply to doing mission in the contemporary world? All those kinds of things.
Okay, well, I mean, that's great, Randy, but it sounds as though what you're talking about is a minister somewhere doing a correspondence course.
Not exactly, that's right. Okay. What we do is we believe that who you are is the most important part of ministry. So because of that, we set up a number of things. We partner with groups who also do it for us in other places. But we first of all provide groups for what we call personal formation, where students come together and they explore who they are, why they are what they are, what happens when they become involved in ministry or mission, what does that do to them, and how can they develop good habits that will enable their relationship with God to continue to grow in the midst of doing ministry and mission. Okay? On top of that, we call together students for what we call facilitations. In Australia, we do it 3 days straight. In other countries, they may do it differently. And this is an opportunity for students to come together in community to discuss and explore both the things they are learning, but also to share the things they already know, to contribute to the learning of other students as well. Because we actually believe that adult learning is about not only bringing the expert information in, but actually taking the expertise of people who are already practicing, already doing, who have experiences that are different than maybe the lecturer or the content provider. So we create these facilitations, which are opportunities for students to mix face-to-face and to explore what it is they're learning and how it actually works.
Now that would sound very attractive to anyone who's tried to sit down by themselves and do a correspondence course.
Yes,
actually.
That's right.
You're talking about a learning community and a practical placement. That sounds pretty amazing. Just one last question then. I mean, it's still quite hard to get out of the mindset that if you want to know the Bible, you need to sit in a classroom for 3 years. Can you honestly, really, truly become a Bible student in this manner, do you think?
Of course you can. I mean, we set up these rather false paradigms to say that the way in which things have been done for the last 100 years are the only way they can ever do it, as if they've been done that way for the last 2,000 years. The reality is that's not the case, right? Every culture is different. The way in which we learn is different. In fact, I would probably say that if you really want to know the Bible, the best way to do it is if you read a section, go out and practice it and see how it goes, and then go back and read it again. All right? It's not about sitting in a classroom saying, okay, now I know what John 1 means, and now I know what John 4 means, now I know what Acts 5 means, so I don't have to do anything now that I know it. We'd say, no, actually, whatever study you do, it needs to be grounded in your life, in your practice, in your environment, your context. So that's what we think. The classroom is not a good place to do that.
Randy, thanks ever so much. That's going to get a lot of people thinking. And again, we'd be interested in your thoughts on the discussion board. Thanks very much indeed.